Hello friends! Halloween may have passed, but the spirit of Halloween carries us onward to next year. And speaking of the spirit of Halloween, that brings us to the subject of today's video. Some of you are probably wondering what I thought of this movie. Well, now that we're not so busy with everything that happens in October, it's time to present you with the Halloween Central spoiler-free review of the Spirit Halloween movie. Set in modern times, this film centers around Jake and his two friends Bo and Carson. Being that they're all in middle school, they're at an age where each boy has a different idea of what Halloween fun is for their age. Carson is in a hurry to grow up, so he wants to get an invitation to a high school party, which goes about as well as you'd expect. Bo, the innocent friend, wants to go trick-or-treating again, so Jake comes up with an idea that he hopes will make everyone happy. The three of them sneak into a new spirit store that opened and spend the night there after closing. These differences between the boys lead to some drama in the movie later on that actually dives into some real internal issues that kids face as they grow up. This shouldn't come as a surprise, but the spirit in the movie looks very authentic to an actual spirit store, complete with a similar layout of the costume, prop, and animatronics and the seasonal employees, or as The Simpsons calls them, pop-up people.
Temporary workers who drift from town to town, holiday to holiday, living off candy hearts and sleeping on Easter grass.
There's a plot of Jake living at a mixed family home. His father had passed away, and his mother recently married another man with his own younger daughter. I'll admit that at first I rolled my eyes at the movie trying to work this plot into the film, but towards the end it actually managed to use the plot well. Christopher Lloyd plays the villain in the film, and lucky him, he only had to be on camera for one flashback scene. The rest of the film, he's doing voices as a vengeful spirit. Get it? As you saw from the trailer, the vengeful ghost of Christopher Lloyd, Alex Windsor, starts possessing the animatronics and props inside the spirit store and uses them to attack the three friends. After a while of all that chaos happening, another kid named Kate enters the terror to try to get them out of the store. She's this high school age girl that Jake has a crush on. Admittedly, I was expecting this plotline to go down the route of cliche and have them fall in love at the end of the film. But I gotta say I'm glad that they went with a more realistic outcome.
Jake, I love you. You're my hero, but that is never gonna happen.
If I save the older girl from an evil ghost, she'll fall in love with 13-year-old me!
Yeah, no, sorry boys, it doesn't work that way. But frankly, her character doesn't serve much of a purpose outside of being an addition to the comedic factor who also tries to help them survive, but is just as clueless about what's going on. However, that takes me to the part about this movie being a horror comedy. A lot of older fans of the spirit stores were angry that this film went with a PG-rated, kid-friendly horror comedy direction, and trust me, I understand that perfectly. With all the stuff that Spirit sells, this could have easily been an R-rated gore fest of teenage or college-aged characters. And you know what? If the Spirit store didn't exist in real life, it probably would have been exactly that. Spirit didn't want the movie to be so scary that kids wouldn't want to go to a spirit store again, or that parents wouldn't want to bring their kids in again. So they went with the safer route of a PG movie. More for kids' spooky adventure that adults will find funny. Now, while I wish it was more like the 90s Goosebumps show where the horror was intentional but still tame enough for kids, this direction does work for a movie based in a place to shop. It has a unique charm about it in how it doesn't take itself too seriously and it ends up being a spooky, fun adventure. Besides, there are already other R-rated horror movies out there about props and animatronics coming to life via magic and actually killing people, such as the little-known 2007 film House of Fears. I think it's easier to enjoy this film if you lower your expectations of it as a horror movie. That's not to say you should give bad horror movies a pass based on that logic. My reasoning is that you should know that any movie based on a place of retail that exists in real life is going to be made to attract more people to its stores. It's not going to be made to make the audience wet themselves. So it's best to look at this as a fun, spooky comedy about a place we love to shop. And maybe a bit of nostalgia thinking about how we would handle a similar situation as kids who love Halloween. Am I saying this movie is flawless? Of course not. Like any movie that's basically a giant product plug, it has its fair share of flaws. Some of the jokes fall flat, and certain sequences felt forced and pointless. Plus, the distribution was pretty lacking. The film came out for multiple video-on-demand services and is available to rent on Apple TV and YouTube. I feel like that may be why it didn't get as many viewers. I know it's not a giant studio behind this movie, but Spirit really should have seen about getting this movie onto Netflix or HBO Max for a time, as video-on-demand services aren't as popular now as they used to be. There are also a few plot holes here and there, and a sequel tease that didn't feel deserved. It's not because the movie was terrible, but rather because the concept and quality of the film make it one of those movies that's better as a standalone film than a franchise. It's a movie where you can turn off your brain for 90 minutes and just feel like a kid in a spirit store. So I'd say rent this movie because it's worth watching once, but probably only once. If you liked this review, then check out some of our past reviews of Halloween-themed movies. And remember, Halloween never really ends. Goodbye, friends!